Okay, we just finished our final session. Disassembly this coming week, but I'm just going to go ahead and take the balloon permanently down now. And so basically the balloon part of it works similar to deflation with slight differences. What I've done is I've put up kind of the balloon catchers, pieces of cardboard there. And what I'm going to attempt to do is kind of smush it down onto the cardboard. I'm not going to untape it from the blower yet in case I need to do an emergency inflate to, I don't know, avoid whatever. It's just slightly windy, but it's not too bad, so I'm not going to bother with the tarp. Otherwise, if it was windier, I would use the tarp. So my basic plan here is to turn off the power to the blower and guide it into kind of the cardboard receptacle area, and hopefully that will work. And then so that actually went down the easiest yet, even though it's just a slight breeze out. Okay, a couple of things I probably haven't mentioned before, so I'll try to point them out now. So these slip joints, once the balloon starts to deflate, if you kind of basically slide the balloon down the rope, if you lengthen the distance between the PVC rim and this loop thing, that allows the balloon more space to collapse. And I think maybe I did that a little bit more than in previous times, and maybe that's why I went smoother. The balloon could collapse better because these top retaining ropes were more slack than they had been in the past. I mean, they're still fastened on the PVC rim, but there's more slack here, so the balloon was able to collapse better. And the other point, let's see if I can find it. The very top of the balloon, where the retaining ropes cross, there it is, buried down in there. So basically, one strategy for perhaps more efficient deflation is to obtain control over that center point that has both lines going through it. If you are able to somehow get a hold of that area and sort of force it down first, then the rest of the balloon kind of follows it. With that down in the middle like that, and then the balloon folded around it, then when it inflates, it's going to kind of like unfurl. That, I don't know if that's better or worse. That may work out better for inflation purposes. Okay, actually I did want to say one other thing. I saw a weak spot here somewhere. Can't find it now, but what it was on one of the seams, I noticed like these pieces of tape should overlap on the seams by at least an inch or so. Oh, here it is. Actually, it wasn't pink, it was blue. So I was a little sloppy in some areas when I was building the balloon. Okay, you can hopefully you can see here, right here. So this is a piece of tape. It ends right there, and then the next piece starts. These two pieces of tape do not overlap. So what's happening is if the balloon is stretched, is pulled, there's a weak spot developing between those two pieces of tape. So this is basically a weak spot in the seam itself. So, and I had a bunch of those previously. So all I'm going to do is tear off about a maybe 3-inch piece of tape and put it on there exactly over where the existing tape is on the seam, but just to cover where that weak spot is. I'm not so worried about that being airtight as I am about the two pieces of tape pulling apart further, because you know when these cheap tablecloths start getting a weak spot, you can see they sort of turn color. So I don't know, hopefully you can see that. And then I'm just gonna fold it up and package it away. Yeah, one other detail I forgot to mention. Since I am actually taking the balloon off this time, so I just pulled the duct tape off of the blower, but I'm going to leave the guide ropes or the retaining ropes attached to the balloon because those loops are sliding well. So what I'm going to do is unhook the ropes from the frame themselves. Let's see how I did with my knots. So this was basically just kind of lashed on there. So I guess it's helpful to know your Boy Scout knots or sailing knots. Not that I do. I just kind of vaguely remember one or two of them, but this particular one was very useful here for this specific situation. So this was lashed on here because it can slide up and down. So because I wasn't sure how much rope we needed. This is just El Cheapo rope from Home Depot anyway, but it worked well. It's soft, paracord or something. It's got a soft outside. If you don't do anything to the ends, it starts to kind of unravel. There, on a couple of the pieces, because I didn't pre-cut it ahead of time, I just cut it here on site as I figured out how long we needed it, and I've seen where people kind of hold a match or a lighter under the end, kind of melt it to prevent it from unraveling. That should probably be done if this rope is going to be reused. Some of those ropes can be kind of sharp, like some of the real twine stuff is kind of sharp. It might be a little too harsh for the balloon itself if there's any friction. Okay, then so up here on the PVC rim, actually I did have a piece of tape here which wasn't really doing a whole lot except making things sticky. Gonna unhook that. It's just kind of wrapped, it's not tied, it's just kind of looped around. Okay, so get rid of that and that. So this is just to get the balloon off. So the retaining rope is still attached to the balloon. That'll give a little bit of a head start, hopefully, during the next setup. And I'm going to do the other 3 joints the same way. Here's a close-up of how I attached the PVC rim to the EMT. Basically drilled a hole through the EMT and a hole through the PVC T and zip tied it. And that held quite well. Okay, so basically the balloon is disconnected, and I'm going to just kind of carefully bundle it up and store it. There it is. Balloon is kind of bundled up. I kept the inlet valve area kind of hanging separately in case there's a little bit of duct tape residue on there. I don't want it sticking to the rest of the balloon. So basically that's it. I'm going to store that thing. I guess I can take the blower down too. So I basically just have a cord wrapped around, a couple holes drilled in the base there, and a couple more on the other side. I'll go ahead and take that down too. Okay, I've just got the cord for the blower zip tied to a hole in the back panel there. Okay, I've untied the retaining cords for the blower. Okay. Okay, that takes care of the blower. You know what? I might as well take... It's kind of overcast and not too windy at the moment. I think what I'll do is go ahead and take this PVC rim down, and it'll save me a step later. Okay. So this is pretty simple. Just cut the zip tie. I'm going to go around and cut the zip tie on all 4 first, and then I'll lift off the rim. I should probably mention, during that last windy day, these EMT poles, I think they kind of twisted a little bit. Definitely, that one's got a little bit of a bend to it. Not bad, but a little bit. And I think they kind of rotated. Originally, I had it sort of pointing out 45 degrees, and now it's kind of, I don't know what, it's sort of leaning back a little bit and facing forward. This one here is like totally facing off to the side, whereas I originally had it kind of forward at 45 degrees also. That's not a big problem, I don't think. However, if you don't want the EMT supports to rotate, I'm guessing probably put a screw through, probably through the strap and through the pipe and then into the wood. If the screw is just fastened on one side, it can still rotate the pipe. So there needs to be something out here, maybe a block, or like I said, go through the clamp. Perhaps that way it can't rotate, if that's a concern. We're gonna try to lift it off the probably the back 2 posts first, so that it can kind of fall or rest onto the rest of the structure, and then I'll kind of lift it up and off of the front 2 posts. That's basically it. It's real simple once the zip ties are off. It looks like it mostly held its shape. You can probably see where it was stressed, maybe a little too much, or maybe the EMT poles were not quite in the right direction. You know, theoretically it should be a perfect circle. Looks like maybe that T and that one got a little stressed. Definitely, I think this one here, that might need to be replaced. Although, I don't know, or glued maybe. There's not a whole lot of stress on it.